Welcome to the Boneyard, a podcast about Mythgard. This is episode 3, Revenge of the Shift to Open Beta. My name is Flake, and I will be your host. I'm joined, as always, by co-host Markthius.
The titles just keep getting better, man. We are happy to bring you another episode of the Boneyard, and we want to start the show by thanking our sponsors, of course, Team Rankstar, Ain't Gaming, and all you wonderful listeners. As always, thank you so much for making all of this possible.
Yeah, and it seems that every episode we've had has come at a very significant time, and today is it's no different. We are coming to you on the day of Open Beta's launch. Now, we are recording this on Tuesday the 17th. However, the publication of this should be on the 19th when, barring any disaster, Open Beta will be launching. So we'll be talking beginner decks, budget options, the evolution of the meta, and the meta, both of them equally. The meta, yes.
And joining us for the discussions today is going to be the Mythgard team captain of Rankstar, Noah. And with heaps of content already credited to his name, Noah will help us prepare you for Open Beta and may offer some tips to those just getting introduced to the game.
As right now, it's not over until one of us has the high ground, Anakin. So let's play the music and enter the Boneyard. All right, as always, welcome again to the Boneyard, episode 3. The first 2 episodes were pretty damn good, and we're looking to improve every single time we do this. And I think that it's always a safe thing to do, Mark, is to open with kind of like the state of Mythgard. And
sure.
Where we're at right now, the state is it's up in the air because there's not necessarily much going on from a perspective of developing, a meta or decks or patches, etc. So it's safe to say that at this time, at the point in which this podcast is being published, really Mythgard it's leapt into open beta. There's no real meta analysis to dissect or patch notes to mull over. Just a healthy amount of fresh blood coming out of hyperspace today.
Yeah, and there wasn't really so it was in closed beta for a while right after alpha, and I wouldn't say that a meta necessarily developed 100%. Everyone's still trying to gather their collections, but I'm sure that we're going to see some sort of meta develop over the next month as open beta hits, more players get involved, more new ideas get thrown out there. But within, if you want to call it a meta, there's definitely been a slew of these budget situations that have definitely come about. And I can't think of anyone better to talk about budget decks than Noah himself, the budget master.
That is right. He is the budget master, and I guess that's an interesting nickname to have, perhaps as an accountant or some type of financial advisor, maybe. Regardless, Noah is rather the team captain of Team Rankstar's Mythgard team. He's published plenty of videos, articles, etc. about the game. So we're going to welcome to the show Noah. Noah, welcome. It's great to have you.
Thank you. It's nice to be on, and I've got a new job title to add now.
Oh, is it? Which one of those have you essentially latched onto? Is it accountant or financial advisor? Which are you choosing?
I think we'll just go with God of Budgeting.
God of Budgeting.
That's good.
Okay, well, I guess it might suit the theme of Mythgard. That's not bad.
Yeah, actually, that fits quite well. It's lore friendly.
Yeah. Instead of tossing lightning bolts, you're just throwing like abacuses at people and stuff like that. That's not so bad. I'll take that. But I guess the first thing, Noah, is you're very intimately involved in the community and in content creation with Mythgard. But I think it's safe to ask many of the guests coming in is, how did you discover Mythgard? Because a lot of people don't necessarily jump into Mythgard as their first CCG. Usually it's a chain of other things leading up to discovering other CCGs. So how did you discover Mythgard?
Well, honestly, I don't know. I'd been hanging out with people in the CCG scene, and I think it was actually technically by way of Aeolus that I got involved. I joined the chat, got a key like 6-7 months ago, and
so you go way back. You're one of the OGs.
Well, I don't know that I'd say that, but it's close. But it took me a little bit to get into it. Like, I downloaded it, I played a little bit, put it off to the side, and then like a few weeks went by and I came back to it, and that's when I was hooked.
what attracted you to the game? I mean, people tend to try different card games, especially like since it's free to play. Many of these card games are essentially free to play, so dipping your toe in is not a big commitment, but staying with it and committing to it. What led you to kind of get hooked that way?
Depth.
That's
Easily depth.
Depth.
Yeah, I've played a lot of CCGs, and the thing that keeps me engaged is high meaningful play, like high skill level, high skill cap. I want to be able to envelop myself in gaining knowledge and min-maxing my ability to play the game, and you get so much space in this game to do exactly that.
That's true.
All right. And yeah, I mean, I think Mark and I always agree on this, is the fact that we're always slightly blown away by the fact that though the rules seem very simple and they're relatively easy to learn, that the more you play, the more layers you discover in terms of actually improving as a skilled player versus a beginner. I think that there's a significant difference between being a beginner to being an intermediate / advanced / expert. The space between each of those strata of player is a lot bigger than they would be in other card games.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Mythgard's hard, man. It's a hard game.
It is. It is.
Well, like hard is we have to probably be very careful about what we say in terms of whether it's hard or easy. It's easy to learn and hard to master.
Right. That's what I mean.
Yes.
It's hard in the sense that it's hard to master. Yeah, it's difficult to be. I don't know. I find it harder than Magic, where like Magic is harder because it has a lot of rules and a lot of weird like turn phases and things like that. Mythgard is just hard because it's like the cohesiveness of coming up with a deck and then making it work and then playing that against all these other different combinations that other people are creating. That's what makes it hard.
Yeah, and you have so many decision points too. So many points at any given time in a game that if you don't play optimally, you likely will get punished and lose because of it. And that's what I like about it.
Like rocket science is hard, brain surgery is hard. This is not. Let's just be honest. You do it on your phone, and I mean I don't know what the future holds. Maybe you can do brain surgery on your phone back in the day. Actually, have any of you ever seen that game where you're supposed to do a heart transplant in the back of like a
Surgeon Simulator?
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I'm awful at that game.
It's just hilarious. Where like you're basically you're controlling every individual finger, right?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a joke. It's supposed to be incredibly difficult and like kind of a joke. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's absolutely. I think that was my first exposure to like Rooster Teeth and those guys.
Yeah. Achievement Hunter did a whole thing with that. Yeah.
Oh God, it is. It was just anyway. So that's freaking hard.
Yes.
Mythgard is a very complex game and layered game, but I see what you're saying, Mark, in terms of learning other games. But I mean, dear God, it's so fun to be able to, like I said, I think that it's not a matter of being, a beginner, intermediate, or advanced. I think that the amount of strata on the ladder is much deeper. And since there's so many different avenues of attack and ways to play the game to victory, that you need to not only be an expert at a one-dimensional strategy, you need to also be aware of and really excel at every single different avenue of attack, so that you can be able to really succeed at this game. And that's pretty damn good. And yeah. I mean, I'm Mark and I come from a well-rounded background of different CCGs, but Noah, you yourself, what were you really invested in prior to going to Mythgard?
So in like late 2002-ish, I think, I got into Yu-Gi-Oh! And I did that all the way up until 2018. And in that time, I met people that played Magic, and so I got into Magic some, and I enjoy it and still play it occasionally. But outside of Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic, I've just kind of dabbled in all of the digital games, hoping to find the one that was the game. And I didn't find that until this one. It took a while. But so I've played a lot of CCGs, but I think the only ones I would feel confident saying I've played enough to be good at would be Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic, and the ones that I've actually put enough time into.
From a perspective of, you say Yu-Gi-Oh. I think Yu-Gi-Oh is the only one that I've actually, I don't want to say actively avoided, but have had no real interest into diving into, and I don't even know why. But you've been playing this, and you say that this is the one. Are you saying that the game is essentially perfect in your eyes, or are you saying it more from a perspective of this is the best I've ever seen so far, but it still has some room for improvement?
This is the best available to date, and in my opinion, I don't know what it is outside of that depth that we talked about, and that's kind of like a wide view at it, I suppose. I can't quite pinpoint one thing. I think it's just all the little things that add up to give you such a cohesive game. It just feels so good.
So if there was one thing that you would improve, you're saying it's the best that there is right now. Is there any kind of little wiggle room that you would actually go ahead and perhaps think that, it's a 9 on 10, could be a 10 on 10. I'm not saying that's bad, obviously. And I would agree to you. And for what Mythgard is and the type of game that it is, I think that it has a lot of advantage over a lot of its competitors. And to me, sort of separating card games, there's card games that have different dynamics and different sort of structures, like a face life total type game to me is completely different than a card game that has other win conditions or other ways to, or avenues towards getting a victory. But to me, something like Hearthstone, Magic, etc., even though the rules might be different, there's still a matter of going after a face and sort of sneaking through a defensive line in order to connect with damage. But for you, saying that this is the best there is on the market, if you could make one adjustment to it, even although minor, what would be something that you would look to improve upon? And it could be something as simple as, up the life total by 3 points, or perhaps tone down the paths, or the power, the leader ability, so to speak, the hero power.
Utilization of the digital space. I think that one advantage tabletop CCGs and TCGs will always have on digital is the social aspect. And you won't get that in a digital game, not to the same sense that, you get to hang out at the kitchen table with people that you enjoy hanging out with. So I think leaning into the unique advantages the digital space gives you, mechanics and stuff that you just can't do in a physical game. I'd like seeing those implemented in digital games, and I want to see a lot of that as we move on.
I think animation as well is something that they could probably look into. And I'm not talking about cutscenes or the storyboard, but whatnot.
Like the premiums, right? Like, because I thought the premiums look great. I just wish that they moved a little or something. Like even in Magic, they don't. It's not like Gwent, where Gwent has like the most ridiculous premium version of a card I've ever seen. It's like a little mini movie, but yeah, but they could do something like make it like a little 3D or something, like how Magic has it. Because their cards are already very similar to what Magic cards look like, so that would make more sense. Or even in Hearthstone, when they're all gold, they shine gold, but like they slightly move as well. Something like that would be kind of really neat with premium.
Yeah, well, Magic has the extended art, so to speak, and even then, what's interesting about when Magic put out a quote unquote premium version of a card, what they basically did was they took out the border and whatever. So if the border was, let's say, like imagine the border of a card is like, an eighth of an inch. What they did was they'd go into the card an eighth of an inch and essentially mirror whatever was shown there. So if you look at some of the earlier renditions, and there's all kinds of memes, because sometimes the art would make for a really weird and odd looking mirror image around the edges of like a face that looked like a cyclops or something. And I think what they've done from that point onward is they've really improved on that. But you're right. I mean, in terms of the prestige cards that come out of Mythgard, they are cool because they're kind of like full art versions where you don't necessarily see the game text.
But once like it hits once it's the board though, it doesn't. It's only like the border's only a little bit gold. Like you can't see that it was premium. You know what I mean? Like it only looks like that in your hand. Like it would look cooler if it did something when I put it on the board.
a little sparkle and shine, like a little polish, is something that I would probably say from a presentation aspect. And now that's just us being a little bit spoiled.
Yeah, we're just being picky now.
Oh, for sure, because the gameplay mechanics themselves are fantastic.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with that.
Fundamentally sound. Yeah. No, then it's just like, oh, it's a Ferrari, but I mean, I don't.
It'd be cool if it was a blue Ferrari.
Yeah, I don't have a blue Ferrari, and then it's like, okay, here's a blue Ferrari. Well, it doesn't have a stripe on it, so go screw yourself. So anyway, are we on a by the way, are we on like a 3-episode streak of no swearing on this show? That's pretty epic.
I think so. I think we've kept it family friendly, which is good, because according to everywhere else this podcast has been listed, it doesn't say explicit. So I think we're doing good.
Excellent. Well, we're going to keep it. We're going to keep that going, because I know that in other formats that we've done for podcasts, stuff that Mark and I have done, we've
let it fly, baby.
I myself we're a little bit off the cuff there. So Noah, it's up to you, man. This is all on your shoulders to stay professional and whatnot. I know you can, because you are the man. So we're going to move on now in a no swearing fashion, Noah, to open beta. Good. Open beta launches today. Okay, we're in the future now, by the way. Or if you're listening to this, we are talking to you from the past. So assuming, the robots have not taken over and I'm not a slave to my toaster, as it stands right now, it is September 19th. Open beta is launching today. Now, what to you, Noah, is the significance of today?
Well, I think it's a big milestone, less to the community. I mean, it's still awesome to the community to finally be in that open beta state. You can tell people, hey, go check this game out, download it on Steam, instead of telling people, hey, go check this game out, you got to join this chat, get a code, blah, blah, blah. But I think it definitely has to be a huge milestone and a big feels good day to the development team themselves. Like, this is the pinnacle of the last God knows how long that they've been doing this.
And Mark, and
until we get to full launch.
Yeah.
And like Mark, you've gone through beta stages of other games themselves, and what like in terms of significance, right? I mean, for us, it's significant, I think, from a perspective of we get to see other players join and grow the game, and that is beneficial to us as both players, competitors, content creators, etc. Is that the audience and the actual pool of players where metas develop and content gets consumed and added onto and whatnot, like that's beneficial to us. But from looking at it from Rhino's perspective, this to them is the kind of moment, the mission control Houston kind of observing the launch pad go and just kind of keeping track of all the metrics and making sure that the life signs are still aces and the systems are all dialed in, and they must be kind of biting their nails to a degree to make sure that everything is is going full steam ahead, because I don't think that to me, I feel like a launch like this is much like a shuttle launch, that even if your thrusters are not all firing, you're not going to escape the gravity of the Earth and then start your journey. So if this is not rocketing at high, at high octane kind of speeds, like it's not going to break through.
Well, I mean, open betas are kind of like soft launches these days, right? Kind of like an early access scenario where it almost feels like open beta launch is like the launch of the game itself, but in reality, it's not really. It's more of we've now opened the doors for everyone to give it a shot, but we're still going to probably go, like, open beta implies that big changes could still happen. We've seen that happen with other games where giant changes happen during open beta. Not saying it's going to happen here, but this is the part where they start to get feedback from not just the people who have been here since alpha, but now they get feedback from just any Joe Schmo that happens to find the game and download it. So now it's a lot of feedback, a lot of influx of information that they're going to get. And we probably might, I don't know how long they plan to stay in open beta, but we might see this game go through some significant to minor changes over the course of the next few months as they kind of gather all of that feedback.
That's a dangerous thing, is when you kind of don't have the confidence enough to really back your own, like going through the alpha and getting all of your feedback. In alpha, it's expected for significant changes to be made, right? Because you're really in the incubation period of a game where everything evolves, everything grows, and everything sort of starts to take shape. Whereas in this case, you're out of the incubation chamber, to use a card, for out of the game.
Yes,
sort of
nice.
you're out of the incubation chamber, so you're ready to go, and you're kind of trying to find your sea legs as to figure out what's what. But as a form, as what you are, I mean, it's hard to make adjustments that'll really change the entire shape of the game and the landscape of the future of the game. And Noah, from your perspective, what do you feel is the immediate impact of open beta on the game? What can we expect the game to be now that open beta has fully launched and it is now accessible to everybody?
I expect and definitely hope that we see a big boom in the community itself. I want people installing this game and playing it, and I think that might be the most immediate, most obvious impact to the community is just how many people we'll have. That's going to be indicative of how this game's going to do. And I think maybe on the development side, a lot of it's going to be the amount of data you can collect to push this game. It in the alpha stage, it's like a ball of clay, if you will, that you toss on a wheel and get into the shape of a pot. And then now you move to beta, and this is when you can have a lot of people standing by looking at this ball of clay on the wheel as you fine tune it and shape it. And I think that all of these eyes on the game will help a lot with nailing down the fine details of what to do next.
But do you feel like the marketing is strong enough for the game right now in order to compete with all the titans of the genre? I know that they already have a lot of their ducks in a row in terms of there's already an alpha for mobile, which is a huge advantage, especially against some of the games that already have established followings and cultures like Magic and like Gwent. Like Gwent, it took three years to even tell the world that it's on the radar and it's coming, and now that is going to be hitting in about a week or two. They're going to finally be able to go ahead and drop, or in a few weeks to drop their mobile version. But it seems like Mythgard has that already locked and loaded. But beyond that, like, how do you penetrate the market? Do you feel it's strong enough? Do you think that they're doing a good job? Like, Mark, I know that you and I have had conversations before about other games where it's the marketing is there, but the accessibility might not be good. Like, for instance, Magic has marketing all over the place. They're a marketing machine. The ads are on every single website and thing I consume. However, I can't play it on the toilet, so to speak. Like, it's not something I could, but a game like Gwent, let's say, which has a pretty good fundamental, great art, like it coming from a beautiful, history of and lore origin, and a sound, fundamental, unique gameplay, but was lacking the same thing. It took a while for them, but they don't really market anywhere. There's not many ads going about. Well, where's Mythgard in all
I think the difference there, though, is that Gwent relies on the fact that you're playing it because you like The Witcher. But Mythgard is more of like, it's not based on any current IP, so Mythgard is trying to capture your attention based on, I think, more of gameplay rather than. I mean, the lore in Mythgard is really cool, but the first thing that's going to get your attention is what is the game? How does the CCG play? Why is it better or different from other games that I'm already invested in? And that, I think, is the key in how they market the game. I'm sure you're going to see a ramp up of the marketing once the open beta goes off, but it'll be key to see how it's marketed. Are they going to market the lore side of it, or are we going to market the gameplay side? So that's going to be the key, I think. Honestly, I don't know which one works better. Who knows?
One fun note, just since we began this podcast, if they had an official announcement in the announcements channel, you can see it, of someone, escapistmagazine.com, posting about the game. So even as we talked about it, it's actively happening.
Oh gosh, that actually, I'm looking at it right now. This legitimately was posted as we began recording. So if everybody wants an actual timestamp as to when we began recording this, you can just go to Go to the Mythgard development stream. Check out Hippo's post at 4:26 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's an actual article about Mythgard aims to combine the best parts of Hearthstone and Magic.
Oh, that's what we've said, that it feels like a combination.
And how much have we actually said that? And maybe they listen to the Boneyard, Mark.
Maybe that's it.
Right? No problem. We're looking for sponsors, Escapist Magazine.
Now I'd like to see more articles like that. That's something that I've seen other games do as well. Like they should be providing, I wouldn't really give a review because it's still an open beta, but just make it more known to outlets such as that, to maybe bigger. I mean, that's a pretty Escapist magazines are really going to put that in. But, like let's get it into other gaming outlets as well so that people know about, hey, there's a new CCG on the market, go check it out. I mean, that's the key, really, because if you don't do that, then no one's going to know it's there. And right now, the game's relying on word of mouth, basically. Basically, people like us telling our friends about it and telling our teammates about it, and that's how we get into it. Outside of that only gets you so far. So this is really good to see, like Escapist Magazine covering it, and that's what it needs more of.
Yeah, and like they need I think that Mythgard just needs a blast of actual, getting the word out, and the fact that there's third parties kind of talking about it is good news, and getting fair and honest reviews of the game is significant as well. Word of mouth, Mark, is how I got into it. It's what you did.
Same here.
You roped me into it, and I said exactly, and it's been great because typically, and I'm not saying this just because I have a podcast with Mark about the game, but I do not typically get roped into games. I will try games. A lot of people, based on the fact that, I'm a streamer, I'm a gamer, I get a lot of suggestions for games. Try this, try this, try this, try this, try this. If I do 2% of what I'm suggested to even try, it's a miracle. And I trust Mark, and I watched him play, and I tried it, and I liked it, and I'm investing in it, and I really, really, really like the game. But again, don't take my word for it. Go try it yourself, and I'm sure that you might like it, you might not. That's not my business, but it's certainly worth a try. And I mean, if you are new, again, that's some sage advice that I just gave you right there, just to try it to begin with. But there's also a lot of resources available for you to try. And one of the people, which is why we got Noah on board here, because he's one of those people who create an absolute assload of great content and for the game. So, like the videos that are out there, before we dive in specifically to yours, Noah, I mean, just you're well in touch with the community. What are you seeing from the community in terms of content creation?
We've actually seen a big pickup lately of new people getting involved in the content side of things, and I think that's so good, because even if you only have 20 people doing it now, those 20 people may be seen by someone who then gets involved in it themselves. Like when I got into the game, I wasn't doing content of any kind. I joined the team as doing like behind the scenes admin stuff, and was not involved in content at all, had no want to do it. And the game just made me want to. And so even if we only have 5 people doing that this week, and then those 5 people get someone else involved, and then someone else sees them, and you can snowball it. So we've seen kind of that effect, actually, with a lot of people beginning to put out content that I don't think we had seen up until now. So I think even just like the closed beta announcement helped a lot with that, and I'm hoping open beta kind of blows that up some.
I think if you had come to me with that kind of pitch, I would have thought that you were trying to like rope me into like a Ponzi scheme or something. But
you get 2 people, and I'll get 3 more people to play the game.
Yeah.
You're not like 12 people.
Yeah, you're not going to go to jail to play that by playing this. I promise you. If you get involved in this game, I mean, tell a friend. But there's no, if someone asks you for money to play the game that has nothing to do with Rhino, then don't get involved. That's my advice. Mark, you're a very, very big time content creator who creates very unique, content. But you're also obviously a streamer, and you started streaming this game. Like how long ago?
Oh goodness, a month ago, more than that, I
Was
think
it?
2 months ago. I'm not sure. When did I join the Mythgard side? Noah would know. I'm not
Oh,
sure actually.
I
But your
think it's been
first
about 5 weeks.
but your first
Yeah.
days of actually like getting onto Twitch and playing it, like when did like
That was
cap off for you?
that had to be at least that had to be like 3 months ago probably because I started streaming it just like here and there, and then I would go to like 1 day a week, and then I kind of gradually brought it into being my main game that I stream now. So I would say it started probably 3 or 4 months ago streaming it, but then only took it like seriously like this, like making it my main game maybe a month ago. So
But but you've noticed that. I mean, when I've streamed it probably about maybe a dozen times or so, and for those who don't know, I'm also a contracted caster for Gwent, so I try my best to be on the meta for as many things that I'm very intrigued in. I'm not employed by any particular gaming company. I'm very much my own guy, so I'm not shy to tell you that I like other games, and sometimes that people find that as like people find that as like something that they can attack of my character, that I play other
you
games.
traitor.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
oh, look at you playing these other games. It's
Yeah.
like, F off. It's like I
Don't
like
you
what
just-
I like.
Don't you love the comments? This is always my favorite. When
Oh,
somebody
God.
that you haven't seen in a while in chat comes up and they're like, "This isn't magic. This isn't."
I'd
It's
hang
like,
out,
yeah, that's real funny. Yeah.
but
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah, that
well,
whole thing. It's like, why did you even go in here to say that?
call me
I had-
when you're playing this. It's like, no,
Yeah.
I won't.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had someone do that to me one time. Someone I hadn't seen in God knows how long joins my Twitch chat and goes, "Oh, well, send me a message on Facebook if you decide to play Yu-Gi-Oh again," and then dips. And I'm like, "Wow, cool, thanks, bud."
It's just so frustrating sometimes when people
Well,
get like that.
that's the thing, and it depends, because some people are very much tied to, like, now we're going on a tangent, but I think it's worth getting into for sure. But I mean, a lot of people don't understand that some people are streamers as a casual thing, and they have other means of income and whatnot, and others have actual consequences to not meeting certain numbers or standards or whatever. I myself am kind of in a very interesting gray area, because I get paid to cast tournaments, but I also make some very modest, small amounts of money streaming. So, but to me, it's always been a matter of, I stream what I enjoy. If I am not enjoying something, I would not invest my time and my sanity into it. So, I don't even know how we got on this, but it is definitely.
We're just talking about content creation. That's kind of how.
All right, the content,
the
content creation. Oh yeah, so it was the streaming, because I started streaming some Mythgard now and then, and there was a time where I'm like, I'm the only dude streaming this game at this time. Like it's currently 8 p.m. on a Tuesday night, and there is not a single account streaming Mythgard. I will do it, but now, as I've noticed, there's in the self-promotion Discord channel for Mythgard, there's people advertising their stuff, getting more comfortable, getting locked and loaded in showing off their own talents and content creation from a live perspective on Twitch or on Mixer or wherever the hell they do it. But I mean, that's a good thing, is it not? It's always cool to be in at the ground level, but it's also good when there's a variety of people out there, because that drives a community, and that drives new eyes onto the game. Because if there was just 2 or 3 people playing something, it might not rub people the right way if those 3 people are specifically 3 types of personalities that people don't like.
Yeah, I think actually a good note on that is that I think that the game would take a bigger. I think it would take a bigger notice if Mythgard were. And we kind of talked about this on the last episode. We won't get too deep into it. But if Mythgard develops an esports scene, I think their big pull and draw here and gets eyes on it is when they cast a big tournament where they could then get Twitch involved to put them on the front page, and the official Mythgard channels playing this tournament that they put together, and that would get people to check out the game and go, oh, what's this? People who just watch esports on whatever's on Twitch esports, they would discover the game, and that was what would probably get a lot of eyes. I mean, I know Gwent at the beginning, that's what got them a ton of attention right from the beginning, of people who didn't even play The Witcher were like, oh, what's this? And they saw the very first Gwent open, and they were like, wow, I really want to try this now. So I think that's a really good thing for the game that hopefully it will do at some point.
There's also, sorry, go ahead.
That was just, that would be cool to see. I think it's definitely a ways down the line still, but that competitive aspect is what pulls me into games. And I have some games I watch the competitive scene on and that I don't even play the game just because I enjoy competition. So I think leaning into that would be awesome to see. I just don't know that we quite want them to do it just yet, as we, you get eyes on the game, but at the same time, if it doesn't hold as much appeal to as many people, then all you get is a bunch of negative feedback. So I'm hoping, as much as I want something like that to happen, it maybe doesn't happen until full launch minimum.
Yeah, a lot of it also kind of, like you're saying, the esports scene, and Mark, you're talking about how other games have attractive big names in order to, put on either exhibitions of the game or actual tournaments with bigger names, part of the broadcast crew, in order to um, attract eyes to it from a beginning perspective. And I wonder how that's going to get worked out or banged out with Mythgard, because I know a lot of Gwent's initial success and popularity came because there were some already established big names who jumped in and drove a lot of their fandom to the game, that eventually either stuck or understood the game enough to talk about it afterwards. Life Coach being one of them. Super JJ, people like that. Even someone like Noxious. Noxious was at a tournament way back. Trump as well.
Donald? The Donald?
But not the Donald. I
Not
know
the Donald,
exactly.
okay.
Poor guy must be like so upset about that and what happened. Like Trump was a card player way before the whole presidential debacle. I mean,
know.
before he. So
well, in Donald, in the Donald's defense, he also existed before Trump, the card player, existed.
Right. I wonder how that kind of, that whole thing.
I don't know. Trump's an interesting guy. You mentioned those names though, and I think that life coach, somebody like a life coach, is what the game needs. I think that's something that they should probably think about. Getting people like that involved. Hey, check out our game, because you want someone like that to look at your game and want to get invested in it. I know that players like that specifically will look for games such as that. Like, Life Coach left Hearthstone for Gwent, and then left Gwent for, I don't know what he played after that, but he bounces around and looks for like the perfect card game. And I would be very curious to see what he thinks of Mythgard.
I feel like that's a discussion for another podcast, about talking about, how to develop eyes on a competitive scene. But, part of it, like we said, open beta today. And if you're new to the game, things like esports are way out in the future for you, for those wide-eyed and ambitious types who want to go down that road.
And we're just speculating on, broadly speculating on like what we hope or think might happen, but who knows? I mean, we'll find out, right?
Right. No, 100%. It would be great to see how that kind of shakes out. But Noah, you've developed a lot of content for players in terms of deck guides, etc. Why don't you talk a bit about your angle of attack when it comes to creating content? Like, do you have a target audience, or are you more so, this is what I feel today, this is what inspires me, let's go with that?
So I have a few audiences, and basically as I get an idea, I jot it down in a document that I keep and make note of like the title, the basic idea, the concept I want to touch on, and then which audience I want it to be to. So, I've got like, the way I look at it myself as novice is going to be someone who's new to the game, maybe even new to the CCG space as a whole. And so I've done pieces like using math in deck building, looking at the consistency of opening a specific copy of something given how many you play, and focused that to new people to get kind of the base concepts of CCG play down. And then I look at the next level being, okay, someone who is new maybe to this game but not to the CCG space. And that's when I look to put out pieces like the opening lane mechanics that I've done 2 on lane mechanics, and the one I did a few months ago was kind of focused on that. Just, hey, this is a mechanic kind of unique to this game. So as you get into the game and look to take that next step to climbing and doing well, this is some, philosophy on this game specifically. And then I've got some stuff that I haven't done any of yet because we've been shifting focus a lot to get content out to new people with the beta launch. But I also have some, I guess, high level, if you will, like kind of just game development spitballing type stuff that I want to do at some point too. So I tend to have an idea and then decide, okay, who does this fit best? And then once I sit down to make a piece of content, I have my goal in mind of who I want it to be focusing on, and I can fit the content to speak to them at that level.
You
So
gotta start making videos about me, man. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, it's good that there's a sort of a broad stroke or a broader audience that you're going for. However, the stroke itself is fairly refined and specific to a certain type of player. And Mark, your videos are very. You have such a vast array of interesting types of videos.
Yeah. I just like to be entertaining. I just try to come up with ideas that are like I can make deck guides, sure, but I prefer to make it a little bit more of an entertainment factor rather than anything like, oh, I'm looking for a serious deck to climb the ladder. Like I may have a deck that's like that, but I prefer to be more like, hey, this is a deck that I created out of thin air and it was really funny, and here's a video about it. Something like that.
Sometimes, man, I'm like, I'll watch you do your thing and just kind of cruise with an idea, and to me, it's like, all right, I'm just gonna see how many days it's gonna take him to fit this square through this round, like this square peg through this round hole.
Sometimes it works though.
It's a lot of fun watching because I'm the opposite way. Like I want to be as meticulous as possible, and sometimes watching someone who just kind of goes, hey, this happened on the fly, I'm gonna adjust and make it the focal point. And it's so cool to watch the kind of the flip side of that coin, if you will. And so it's been a lot of fun watching you as you do things like that.
Thank you. Yeah, my ideas usually come from something silly. Like I'll come up with the idea because I'm like today I made a remix to Ignition deck just because we were singing the song. As like, well, Ignition's a card, so let's make a deck around that. And that's how we came up with the idea. So like it'll just usually be something really silly or stupid to make a deck out of. Sometimes it works out really well, sometimes it's complete garbage.
Well, I mean, I'm the same way. Sometimes the title comes before the actual video itself.
Yeah.
Like I like to make deck guides. I like to create decks and then just kind of, if they're refined, if I like them, I'll make a deck guide out of them. But to me, I play a lot of blue yellow. That's really my niche right now, is decks that play blue yellow. And as I was just naming the deck as I was sort of refining it in the deck builder, and I wrote BY, and then I was like BYOP, BYOP, and I'm like, that's so good. I'm like, that has to be a video down the line. So BYOP is going to be a coming soon to Flake's channel kind of deal. But the content that is existing right now is very inspiring because it's not just a matter of the fact that there are more and more people streaming the game and having fun streaming the game. And if you want a wicked cool VOD to watch, go watch What's Up Woody just absolutely rail himself with tequila or whatever it was.
Jaeger.
Was it Jaeger?
That was quite the night.
So if anybody was not aware of this, there was about 100 plus packs that Woody opened, and for every mithril that he opened, every mythic that he opened, it was a shot of Jaeger. And apparently the gods were pretty damn good, and the pity timer should have been reversed. Like legitimately, they should have been, all right, that's 5 shots of Jaeger. Like we're gonna just shut off the pity timer and have you're not opening a mythic for the rest of the night because you got work tomorrow kind of deal. But those are funny and interesting things. And obviously we at the Boneyard do not condone underage or irresponsible drinking. I don't know if I have to say that for legal purposes.
Woody's an older man, so it's okay.
Yeah, he looks like a very metrosexual Tarzan. He is such a beautiful man.
He's a beautiful man, isn't he? It's funny. He's actually he's a physical ed teacher. So that was what made it even more entertaining to watch him just trash his liver as he's like opening.
He's like cards. British Fabio. It's amazing.
Yes, he is.
He's so damn cool, by the way. And we'll shout out to him now. What's Up Woody is a great content creator and just an overall nice dude.
And Rankstar, fellow Team Rankstar guy. So
Yeah, and I mean, we're not just saying that because he's a Rankstar guy, but he's also
Well,
he's
as part of it.
Hey, he's a Rankstar guy. Blah. So
Blah.
He paid us. Don't let them lie to you.
yeah, exactly. We're gonna get his
this podcast, episode 3, sponsored by What's Up, Woody?
absolutely, exactly, and we're gonna have to take all that money that he paid us and help him recover his job because I don't know if he made it into work the next day. That was a lot of Jägermeister.
Yeah, we'll start the Woody's new What's Up Liver fund for Woody.
Oh my God! Exactly. What's up? Well, apparently your blood alcohol level it was just way up there. So besides deck guides, besides videos and really in-depth stuff, there's a lot of great people out there putting on streams and actually creating content. But I know that Noah, you've got a very important project that you're working on that has some significant news that we cannot share yet. And it's still kind of up in the air, but what you tell us about Mythgard Hub?
That it's coming soon, and not even going to take the easy way out and add a nice little TM symbol at the end of that soon. It will be, my hope is that by the time this goes live, we'll be within like 2 days of launch.
So what exactly is it though? Because there's some people who might not necessarily know what a hub is in regards to a card game. Because there's Aether Hub out there, and
there's wikis.
If you put 2 and 2 together, you can kind of figure it out. But I mean, just describe to us what the project is and where it began, and at what point in its development are we right now that you can kind of share.
So it began way back when we used to have weekly open events, and I didn't have a place to publish the deck lists. And I thought, well, this kind of sucks. We should fix that. And so I was talking with Manted Man, the guy who was casting with me, also on the team. And we kind of said, well, we could set up one of those, sites on Wix and just post the deck list, so at least we have something to link to people that they can go get them. And then we kind of thought, well, why do that when we could just do the big hub? And we decided on hub because we wanted some kind of name to discuss and kind of imply the community meeting point. So you can log in and make decks, you can post decks publicly. I don't know that we'll have it at launch, but soon following launch, you'll be able to upvote and comment on decks. So you'll be able to find community content that we'll be posting. So if I make a post on the team's website, I will be linking it on the hub. If someone makes a YouTube video someplace else, if someone outside of the team, this is a community site. And so we'll be highlighting the community as a whole. So we'll have content available. We will have decks you can publish. We'll have decks you can save just to get them into the client. If you have an idea and you can't get to the game, maybe you don't have it installed on mobile, you can log in, make a deck, and then when you get home, just push it to the client and go play it.
So there'll be a
fully functional database. What was that?
Okay. Oh, I was gonna say there's some connectivity between the actual game itself and the website.
Well, you won't be able to just hit a button and send it to client, but you'll be able to copy the list and then paste it into the client.
Okay, right.
Yeah, being able. Oh man, that would be cool, wouldn't it? Just
you never know what the future holds. Maybe that's the big announcement in 2 days. I don't know.
But
who knows?
Yeah, so it's kind of just a community meeting point. Plaza was the name we initially wanted. Was Myth Plaza, to give that feeling of the community in one space. This is all of us all at once doing something communal, and that's going to be focused on decks and content and looking at a database. Competitive events as they happen, we'll be able to post the deck list, post stats on meta analysis of competitive events and things like that. So apologies.
Oh, that's okay.
So are you taking off?
Yeah.
That's the sound of Mythgard Hub launching.
Yeah.
I hit the go live button. Have fun. No.
Perfect.
So that was kind of how it all began was a place to post competitive events, like post competitive decks, and then we just kept adding things until we said, well, it's all encompassing enough now that we might as well focus on the communal aspect of it.
So just out of curiosity, so at what point was Myth Plaza dumped? Because Myth Plaza sounds like a place where you can go get your nails done, get a pretzel,
Myth
the whole
Plaza
deal.
was dumped. I believe we actually looked into it, and somebody has a book called Myth Plaza, and so we didn't want to pick up the name. And then we looked at Myth Hub, and that was taken. So it was just kind of, we eventually settled on a name, but we always had that community focused name in mind, something to imply all of us meeting in one place.
That's a good thing to have, though. I mean, and it's not just a matter of, it's not a place where you can just go and sort of scoop decks and like net deck your way to the top, right? It's not, nor is it essentially, like you're saying, it's not something that's exclusively owned and operated and sort of honed in and tunnel visioned into Team Rankstar related content. It's a community based and driven content hub. So I guess the name works, dude. So good for that. And for people like myself, like Mark, and everyone else who throws content out there, Mark, I know that it's always a great place to.
Oh yeah.
When there's a place that you can go and get inspiration or find out what is going on, I'm sure like this podcast could be on Myth Hub.
Yeah, that would be great to have that. I mean,
awesome.
Reddit's always a go-to place as well, but Reddit has rules about content posting, so it's always good to have a place that, besides just Discord, it's always good to have another source or multiple sources where you can sort of have community content gathered and all into one place. So yeah, it's a really cool idea, man. I think a lot of I don't even know any CCG that doesn't have a sort of hub situation or a website like that. So it's great that Mythgard is going to get one right off the bat like that. Is really awesome.
Yeah, we looked at a lot of those in multiple games as we kind of decided on the visual aspect of things. We went and looked at places like Tapped Out with Magic, and I don't know what Gwent's equivalent would be, but I imagine.
Well, they have a built-in one now. Yeah, they have a built-in one now. But I guess Gwent Up was that for a while.
Gwent, they had other options, but they've actually gone down the route of owning the content or owning that sort of outlet themselves, like right on the Gwent website, and it has a direct import-export feature to the game. But again, that's something that they themselves just made happen.
I think Hearthstone would probably be the best example of one of the more popular CCG spots for a game, right?
That was one we looked at as well.
That one I think weren't they going away, or maybe I was mistaken on that. I think for a while I think they were posting something about that they were going to go away, but then they're still here. So I don't know. But yeah, it's going to be really cool to have that. So I hope it looks great. I can't wait to use it and import. It's great to have a spot where we can, for the content side, we upload our videos, but then we want to also link you to, a deck guide, like a written deck guide as well. So it'll be an awesome place to be able to do that.
So a tentative date that this can be something that someone can go in and start getting some use out of and start actually contributing to, what would that be?
Ideally, as soon as possible. I am not actually in a position at the moment to give a solid date. My hope is by the end of this month.
Well, hey, listen.
It's the best window I can give it this time, but I will absolutely keep the community as a whole kind of up to date as we move ahead with that. We should be putting the finishing touches on things and potentially opening up to a kind of an alpha wave that would last a couple days, just as we have a few people on to double check that no bugs happen and things like that. And that would be within the next week, I would guess we'll be doing that. So then sometime beyond that, we should look to actually push the site live.
Oh, that's good news. I mean, a lot of times when you sort of people discuss projects of this magnitude, because it's a fairly big thing. I mean, consuming content and finding a place where you can get all this, it's no small it's no small task to actually curate and collect and make sure that everything runs smoothly. So usually when discussing these types of new projects and you're saying, oh, it's coming soon, like 4 to 6 months, but the fact that you're just saying it's like, the end of September is our goal, and we're hoping to, be blasting off on the journey with Mythgard itself, out of open beta with something that can support it right out of the gate. So that's very encouraging, dude, and I'm very happy to hear that.
Thank you.
Well, listen, for everyone who is new to the game, again, a lot of people will be jumping into this game today at open beta. Those who didn't have access to it in alpha and closed beta prior to today, Mark, I think it's safe to say that people want very, maybe some one or two little nuggets of advice as they kind of jump out. So maybe it's best if all three of us can come up with one or two little, wisdoms to share to somebody who has logged into the game and just finished the tutorial and knows how to play. So Mark.
Oh boy. I guess I would say my biggest advice, there's so many things to say, but I guess my biggest one is don't be afraid to experiment. So a lot of people, when they get into a CCG, the first thing to do is, okay, what's the best deck to make me climb the fastest? You don't want to do that with this game, because not only are you not going to be able to make that deck right away, but you're also going to get extremely frustrated if you try to take things way too seriously too quickly. So play through the story, learn how to play, and then pick some colors you like. Try all the colors first. My advice is, what I did is I went through each color individually and played mono versions of each color with the cards that I had. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to mix in a splash of this with this color because I liked the style of this color. And then I just kind of combined colors together that I enjoyed their style. So that's my advice. Don't be afraid to experiment and take your time experimenting, and don't worry about your rank right away. You're not going to be very high up there. Remember, you're going up against people who have been not only in alpha, but there's a bunch of us that have been in closed beta. And so we're going to have stuff that is going to, clean the floor with you. So don't be afraid to experiment and mess around with other things till you find exactly what you like.
Hell yeah.
So the advice was, don't step to me, kid.
No, well, I didn't want it to come off that way, but it was more like don't think that you're.
Giving you bad time.
It's more like, don't think that just because you're coming from other games, you might be really good at Magic, you might be really good at Hearthstone. Don't think that you're going to come to Mythgard and all of a sudden be like this golden god of Mythgard, because that's not going to happen. You gotta earn your way there and collect your cards, and you're going to go up against people that might have a ton of mythic cards, and like you're just not going to be able to keep up. So you have to, work your way there and experiment, and don't try to match into people like that.
Just concede to Markthius is what he's saying. Don't forget to hit that.
Pretty much.
Don't forget to hit the GG.
Yeah, the thumbs up button.
GG and concede. Yep.
Oh God, Noah. What would you say would be the sagest advice to give to somebody who, like we said, just they downloaded the game today, they watched a quick tutorial video, they ran through the basics, they've got the story mode done.
They conceded to Markthius.
They totally just bowed to the master.
Play gauntlet mode. You get a chance to test, well, especially if you just finished the campaign, like you get to jump in without these notions of this is good, this is bad. So when given this pick, I'm going to just take the one that I think is good and leave out the one that is bad. So you get to test with a lot of things you wouldn't usually be playing and decide what you do and don't like. And then it's also the fastest way to unlock paths as you play, because instead of just getting them off level ups, you get them on finishing a gauntlet. So it's the quickest way to help unlock some of the unique aspects of the game, while also getting to kind of feel out the pool as a whole and test not only the play styles you like, but things that you don't have unlocked yet. So say you get a Sapo in one of these picks, you can go, oh, this was cool, I now know I want to make Sapo. And then in the next set of picks, you get like, I don't know, To Heaven and Back. And you get to play with To Heaven and Back. And you go, okay, I liked this, but not as much as I liked playing the yellow deck with Sapo. And then okay, now I have enough essence to make a mythic. I'm going to go make Sapo instead of To Heaven and Back.
Oh, it's always good to the cool part about Arena that I like as well. The Gauntlet, that kind of genre of drafting cards and such, is that you're forced into creating combos and really understanding the cards that you draft. So that's really good advice. And like you said, it also helps out in the in collecting rewards from the game, right? That eventually,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. I'm going to say my piece, and Mark, stop me when you know exactly what I'm about to say. Okay.
Okay.
When you're new to a game, it's always important to take your time and read
the cards.
read the damn cards. Read the cards. Oh my God, Mark, I wanted to throw you out of I would have bought you a plane ticket and thrown you out of
now,
at 39,000
listen.
feet, 10,000. Yes, go ahead.
In my defense,
go ahead before I finish.
My defense, Magic cards are, some of them are like reading a novel. In fact, some of them are even called sagas, which are mini novels. So in Mythgard, the text is much less. There are some cards that are very large, but there are much it's much easier to understand in Mythgard.
That's fair. But okay, so now that you totally know, Mark, and you can but at the same time, when I'm done this, Mark, you can probably go ahead and add on to it and say about why this advice is important. But
okay, go ahead.
Or how it has affected you. Basically, when you're playing a card game, you have a certain amount of time during the game, but you also have time outside the game. Now, I'm not saying to go out there and read and memorize every single card, because that's going to drive you bananas. But when you're playing a damn game, you will understand your deck and how it works. But part of being successful and enjoying a game is knowing what your opponent is playing and knowing why you are winning or why you are losing. So to be successful and to continue progressing, read the cards you do not recognize. Take the time to go and scroll through their Boneyard and pick out the cards that you are not familiar with what happened. And you're like, why did my guy just die? Whatever, who cares? Let's go. Well, that's not the way to do it. It's important to go ahead and take the time. And it's going to be a little bit, cumbersome at first and kind of be a little bit tedious, where you have to go and check out a lot of cards. But that's how you get better. Eventually, you'll recognize the cards by the art that they're showing and you'll know what the mechanics are and the gameplay is like. But knowing why you are losing is part of how you get to the point where you start losing a lot less. What I find, and this is the difference between a beginner and an intermediate, in my estimation, is a beginner can win games purely by playing their own deck. An intermediate will begin to win games against other intermediates because they now understand their opponent's deck as well. Once you start knowing what your opponent is trying to do, the cards that they're playing, that's when you can begin to progress and really improve. And beyond that, and then from beginner to very good to expert to world class, those are other little things. But Mark, what are my 3 words I used to tell you all the time when teaching you how to play Magic?
Read the cards.
Read the cards. Has it served you well, my friend?
It has served me well, yes.
There you go.
And in Mythgard, there's a lot of reading to do, not necessarily on the card itself, but with the ability. So it might say 5 different abilities on the card, and then it's up to you to remember and recognize what each of those abilities are. And luckily, on Mythgard, when you hover over the card, a little pop-up on the side will come up to tell you what each of those abilities mean. Similar to kind of how Magic does it as well. But I actually think visually, it's a little, you mentioned the visual aspect of it. In my opinion, I think Mythgard's a little easier in visually recognizing a symbol, because the symbols was right at the bottom of the card with what the ability is. And for me, it was just easier to recognize, oh, that symbol means lurker, and lurker means you have to attack something next to it first. So that recognizing those symbols, I think, is really important. And if you know that, then you're one step ahead. Even if you don't remember what the card itself specifically does, that little ability symbol will tell you everything you need to know.
But I mean, if you want to summarize that in three words,
read the cards.
Read the card. All right. Here we go. So, folks, this is wrapping up this segment. We still have your community questions to get to, but before we do so, we're going to go through a short break where we all kind of hold hands, sing Kumbaya, and pray for a sponsor. So we'll be back right after this with community questions for us and for Noah. All right, so this is the part of the show that we like to wrap up with, where we go through some of the questions that we've received from the community. We kind of reach out through Reddit, through Discord to kind of talk to you guys and see how you're feeling and see what you guys want to know. You can ask questions to myself, to Markthius, but most of your crosshairs are firmly placed on our guest. And in this case, that guest is Noah, team captain for the Mythgard portion, the Mythgard sort of faction of Team Rankstar. Now, I got some questions for you, Noah, and I do hope that this is not a pass or fail kind of thing, but you will be severely judged. Yeah. All right. Our first question came from Discord, and this one was kind of slid under the door in the 11th hour just before we went live. And this is from Kilimanjaro on Discord. It says, Noah, you're always online, it seems. What do you do in your offline time?
Well, lately I haven't had much offline time. Getting the hub finished has been like goal one. But when that's done and I'm actually offline, I actually like to spend a lot of time cooking.
Oh.
My mom went to school to become a chef. And so I've been like cooking with my mom since I could sit up. And it's kind of like my passion outside of CCGs is spending time in the kitchen. It's calming.
Oh man, I can't wait for you to cook for us at the at the LAN that we're gonna do.
Well,
now we have to put together a LAN so that we had Noah cook for everybody.
Yeah, when we have the big TRS kind of group house, when we all eventually throw on a big tournament. By the way, this is all speculation, ladies and gentlemen. Do not read into this. There's not actually something in development, or is there? Asking for sponsors. Anyways, no, folks. Yeah, that's not actually happening. But if it does happen, we know that it'll be well catered and on budget too, because you're the budget master.
It's gonna be a bunch of cheap food. Just piles of mac and cheese out of the box.
Noah's nom noms.
Noah's gonna be there. Everyone is allowed 14 noodles. He's gonna count them and weigh them. All right. Well, there you go. There you have it. So cooking. I myself actually find cooking very soothing. It's one of those activities that it takes takes focus, but not a lot of intense focus. But it's one of those things that the effort you put into it is immediately rewarded to you, like with a hot, delicious meal. Like that is
like the payoff is food, and who doesn't like eating?
Yeah, right. I agree.
I love eating.
Great.
All right, perfect. All right, here we go. Next one. This one's from Reddit, Maleficia72 from Reddit. What inspires you to put in so much work creating content for the community?
This is going to sound so cheesy, but honestly, it's the people in the community. I just a little while ago mentioned that when I got involved with the team and subsequently the game, I wasn't doing any kind of content. I was doing behind the scenes admin type stuff with the team, and then the people in the game made me want to put out content, and I did a couple pieces. They got good feedback, and the next thing I knew, I was doing it weekly, and I love it. And it's something I didn't know I would enjoy until I got into it. But the thing that makes me continue doing it is the community itself. It's a hole that needs filled, and I love helping with that.
It's a pretty damn good community, and Mark vouched for it many times over. And everyone that has essentially been part of it that I've interacted with has been very receptive and very mature is not the word, because I'm not saying either that the community is immature, but they've been very helpful. You don't get the typical kind of negativity, but
I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure
it'll come with size. It's kind of inevitable. But yeah, up to now, the community has definitely been significantly less angsty than most that I've been in.
It's funny because that kind of leads you to believe that it's like Noah's kind of tipping off the whole, if you're nice, we make things for you, but if you're mean,
you get a lump of coal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The internet edgelords haven't found their way to Mythgard yet.
Yeah, keep it up. The next budget list will be all commons.
All right. Next one coming also from Reddit is from Malvis. And Malvis, I know because I was cruising through the Mythic ladder and saw that name way up on there. So congratulations to you in this competitive season. And says, hey, Noah, what's your favorite tribal faction?
Ooh, I think canines, which is funny because I
Yeah,
haven't played much in the way of canine decks,
my man.
but I like they kind of make use of some of the uniqueness of the game in that whole adjacent minion play. So the lane system feeds into the play style of canines, and I like seeing that. So I think it's canines, but I don't actually play them often.
That's my jam, man. That's my go-to. It's canines.
Like any type of faction that really makes use of a uniqueness or a certain aspect of the gameplay strategy. Like you said, lane placements, they're so damn crucial in this game, and they factor in very super important. So the fact that it's also kind of has a little bit of a swarmy feel to it, but it also the side by side, that whole mantra of together we're strong kind of thing, like greater than the sum of your parts, so to speak. I guess, man, canines are pretty badass. All right. Okay, so finally, here's the last one. This is from, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Yejakas or Yehakas. I apologize if I'm butchering that. You can go ahead and reply in a comment field to this video or whatnot with some type of correction or terrible mispronunciation of my name. It's no big deal. I'm all good with it. All right, Noah. What do you feel about the rush keyword in cards like Daring Ringmaster? And I guess to follow up on that is there was also some further discussion to this. And what was elaborated on was certain other games like Hearthstone have changed to include charge, which is essentially rush in Mythgard, but they added kind of like a toned down version where you have the immediate attack, but only of other units or other creatures. And in this case, do you think that, how do you feel about rush as a keyword in cards like Daring Ringmaster? And do you think that down the line they might need to have a toned down version of rush that only attacks creatures?
If I'm not mistaken, in that example specifically, can't you go face past a full field anyway? I know they have one ability that stops face attacks, but outside of that, it's not a game I play too much of. But I think you can just go face anyway. So having that limited to attacking the field makes sense in that context. But
Yeah,
in a
they
game
have
that once
taunts.
you have a minion on field, you hold blocks. I don't see it maybe needing to only go to hitting minions. The only time I've felt that the ability was a bit much was some old lists used to also play enchantments to give agile. And then what happens when you have that specific combination of abilities is each minion you play becomes a damage spell that then holds a block too. And that can be a bit much to deal with because you basically don't have to play the combat half of the game while also still making the opponent play the combat half of the game. And I think as long as we can avoid too much in the way of hitting the field, immediately having agile and slamming face, we'll be okay. Do I
And
think it will evolve into that? I
yeah,
hope not.
but there's
But
there's the thing, because you're explaining right now is the fact that Hearthstone has taunt, which essentially is like a protection towards
yeah,
your own face, and every single creature, it's almost like the reverse is necessary. Like the burden is on the attacker, not the defender, where you need
yeah.
to find a clean lane to go through. Will there ever be a mechanic, do you feel, that would circumvent that or sort of tone down rush?
I'd like to see it as its own ability, as opposed to changing one we have. So then, you can have something that is a one mana, I don't know, 5/5. Obviously, that's a nuts example, but you might have like a one mana 5/5, but it can only attack a minion and then it exiles when it dies, something like that. So give it its own ability if you want, because then you have an additional point to balance tweak on and play with. Kind of an in between stage that lets you bump up the stats a little bit so you can utilize the kill spell aspect of such an ability without having to also take into account but how much damage is this pushing to face.
All right, I could feel Mark kind of being like, "Nope, do not f with aggro. Do not do it."
Nope. Keep. In fact, I would even argue that I feel like the game doesn't have enough aggro, to be honest. Like I tried today to make like a rush deck with a bunch of rush cards and all that, and I just was like, it's kind of there, but unless you pulled like the perfect hand right from the beginning, you just get screwed. And I kind of wish there was a way to be a little bit more aggro, but I understand why I think the game is kind of shied away from that, but I could always hope.
All right. Well, listen, Noah, again, my sincere thanks for joining us on episode 3 of the Boneyard. You've been, as always, just an awesome guest. And for those who don't know, Noah's such a genuinely great guy, and in private he is such a jerk to me. It's hilarious. No, he's a good dude, and if you haven't checked out his content, please do so. And Mark, now you've seen his stuff.
Yes.
Just give us a rating of his content, and tell us about Mark. By the way, has years and years and years in television production and whatever.
Thank you.
So Mark, now's your time to grade his
I don't know why I
content.
thanked you for that.
You're welcome.
You listed facts. Good job.
Yeah. I will give Noah a solid 5 magic bowls of ramen out of 5.
Ooh, that's a good budget food
Pretty good.
too.
Yeah.
It's a great budget food. All right. All right, Noah. So where can people actually find your stuff? Where do you stream? And why don't you just go ahead and drop a little bit of that beautiful self-promotion that we so deliciously love?
So you can find me basically any place you can play the game. Any place you can talk about the game, you'll find me. But you'll most often find me on Twitch now at NoahC992 is the Twitch channel. So please come by, say hi. I'm always happy to talk about the game. And if you see me online any place else, message me. I'm available most of the time, as Killy was so nice to point out. So just send me a message. I'm always happy to talk.
You sound like customer service. Drop me a line anytime, Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
What's the queue times for that? That right there. It's like, all right, your call was important to us. We'll get back to you.
I'll get back to you next week. 99 cents a minute.
All right, Mark. And if you want to give a ramen rating for today's episode, what would you give it?
I will give today's. Do you want to use the same ramen? Magic ramen?
Well, there's like chicken flavored, beef flavored. You got like spicy chicken flavor. Maybe it's a different flavor.
Let's go with the spicy beef. Is that one? Yeah, spicy beef.
It is. Absolutely.
We'll give it a 5 out of 5 spicy beefs.
I think
it was fantastic.
Telling you, shout out to Mr. Noodle, who kept me both, nourished and excited about buying ramen for so many years. So cheers to you, man. Every now and then you just walk by the grocery aisle and you're like, "There's a new flavor! Oh my god,
what?
Awesome! I know where my 20 cents are going. Thank you, Mr. Noodle."
I give this 5 What's Up Woodies out of 5.
There we go. I'm going to give this 5 Jaeger bombs out of 5.
Yeah.
And then hey, by the way, the show, I know we've had it on our first 2 episodes were on YouTube, was the main way to get this, or on the TRS website. But now the show is also available through Google Play, Spotify, SoundCloud, and soon to be on iTunes as well. And then for those that have asked me individually about a specific RSS feed, if you go to the Team Rankstar website and you look at the podcast section of the website, you'll see ours listed there. And there's a handy dandy RSS feed link right on that page there as well. So tons of ways to access the show.
Hell yes. See, we're expanding. Eventually we're going to be blast out into space. So
that's right. We're going to be
other cultures will figure out what the hell Mythgard is as well.
We're going to be like that 1975 satellite that just launched a bunch of
right. It's got like pictures, like diagrams of like our naked bodies and like Madonna just blasting through space. Oh, God almighty. All right, friends, this has been another
This was the best we had to offer.
Yeah.
We give you naked people in Madonna. Take it, please.
Yeah. No, guaranteed they're. You know what? Maybe that's why they're not coming. Maybe
that
that's
was it.
Why
they didn't like the Madonna song that we played.
Oh, Lord. It's like, I don't know. These people have horns between their legs and they're blasting this god-awful lady's voice. Like,
do we even want to stop by?
For sure, they literally drive past the planet and shut the lights off so we can't see them. It's like, shut the lights, the neighbors are looking.
Yeah, like, you go by, windows go up, you slouch down in the seat a little bit, engage the locks.
All right, friends, that has been another episode of The Boneyard. Thank you so much to everybody who has tuned in. Mark, thank you as always for being my wonderful co-host and for pushing all the buttons again. Everyone who doesn't know, Mark has a bunch of pulleys, levers,
levers, and buttons.
He's got like 19 arms.
Got a million things going on back here.
Always a million things, possibly 1,000,001 when we get iTunes going. So
yes,
that's going to be great. Nonetheless, thank you very much, Markthius. I am Flake. I am one of the co-hosts of The Boneyard. It has been a true pleasure to bring you this episode. Thanks again to Team Rankstar, to Inked Gaming, and to you, the wonderful and handsome and beautiful listeners, because if it wasn't for you, we would be talking to ourselves. So have a good one. We will see you next week for another episode of The Boneyard.